Man, wouldn't it be nice to stop the internal self-talk of just trash talk, just belittling yourself? I don't know if that's the way it is for everybody. For me, for years, I just got this reel going on that was just trash talking myself. Anything I did was not good enough. Anybody I talked to, like when I was done talking with them, then all of a sudden my imagination would start playing the trash they were talking about me or the things I should have said. And there was just conversations always going on and just making me feel less than. And this was for a very long time until one day it was just gone. It was silent. And that's a whole different rabbit trail on how I got there. But I realized like this peace internally is very nice. Very nice. And not to talk too much about the path to get to that, but I believe it was twofold. One was meditation. There was one winter where I just did a deep dive, and every morning I'd be getting up about 3:30, and I would sit there. It was wintertime, and I'd be in the cold. I'd have a heater beside me, and I would meditate between 30 minutes and to an hour. And I think that really shifted me internally in starting my journey of controlling my mind. And in that, I opened up a lot of other doorways internally to my healing. But then the next step that I truly believe was the fulcrum in my inner self talk, just stopping, was that I started this path. I was like, I'm going to program in a new personality. And this was after I had a huge shift in awareness in 2022. And I didn't like the person that I was. Or how do I put that better? I wasn't the person that I needed to be to fulfill what I needed to do in life. So I was like, I'm going to change this. Like, how do I build a new character from the inside out? And so I started putting together these ideas and concepts and started doing it at certain times and programming it in myself. And after a long period of time of doing this, it was many, many months. It was after that that I noticed that inner voice just stopped. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I started reprogramming it. So here's my theory that with your said personality, there's a subroutine that plays automatically that was programmed in at some point in the past. And it can just pick out the words that are needed for whatever you're doing. And it's like an AI running for trash talking yourself. And I was like, what if I program this to be good? And here are the things that I did that I feel other people could benefit from this self-talk. One of the primary things that I did that shifted it was looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. Every day I looked in the mirror. And at first I didn't receive it. I really didn't. And then after it just became habit, I did. And I'd look in the mirror and now I smile and I'm like, I do love you. Like, and I feel this encouragement because it's like, there's nothing wrong with actually loving the vessel that I'm in. Not to the point of like gluttony and just doing whatever, but like, hey, love you. That's something you could try. I'm not saying it would work, but like it makes a big difference because you start shifting the internal voice also. It starts being positive. And here's another big thing that I've found shifted my internal dialogue. It was, let's say, washing dishes, and I would get stressed out and nervous and do my best not to make any noise. And if anything slipped or I'd stress out, my nervous system would fire up. And I got to wonder, I was like, why is that? Because I feel the same way when I do laundry, like extremely stressed out, and there's no reason for that. And that goes back to childhood. So I looked at that and I was like, oh, there was programming in there from an adult while I'm doing these tasks. And my nervous system still doesn't necessarily look, my brain doesn't look at the memory, but my nervous system pulls up these reactions and that inner dialogue. So I shifted this internally. When I start doing the dishes or folding my laundry, making my bed, or folding my laundry, I would shift my internal dialogue to this purposefully. You're doing a good job. I'm proud of you. And if I like slip up with a dish or something, I would say this. I'm like, hey, we're all human. It happens. All you need to do is just pay a little more attention to your hands because your mind was focused on something else. And then I started applying that to like everything I was doing that I would, in the past have felt nervous about doing, or had a parent or somebody in the military that was overbearing towards me during a task. And I started replacing it because not only had, how do I say this? The inner dialogue had stopped, but I still had the nervous system response. And words can trigger that, like that nervousness and that anxiety. And so I had to figure out how to overcome that also. And that's changed so much between then of having the inner dialogue, the no dialogue with the nervous system, but then shifting it to just a positive dialogue and with no fear of a negative outcome. So with anything I'm doing, I might drop my keys and I tell myself, you know what? That's okay. Anybody could drop their keys. Not a big deal. Not the end of the world. I can pick them back up, put them in my pocket. And in doing this, like I have changed my inner dialogue to be this loving, positive, kind coach that's very caring. And I'll tell you what, it's really amazing. It's really awesome. It has changed me internally a whole lot. Now, the part that I found that is a little bit, not hazardous, but not the best, not the worst. When I tell myself I'm doing a great job, and I truly believe it, the problem is, I've said that so many times, I think anything I do is awesome. I'm not accurately reflecting reality. So I have to take it a step back and be like, okay, is my output good or is my output bad? And I check that. I'm like, okay, I need to adjust a little bit. And the way I figured out how to do that with the self-talk is say, hey, you're doing a great job. You can do a little bit better. And I gently tell myself that. I don't sit back and be like, man, you idiot. You could have done better. That's so stupid. That's dumb. Like, so many other people are doing better. You know you could have done that. You were standing right there and you let that happen. That doesn't help anything internally. What does help is that coaching, loving, kind voice that just pulls you along to be better in just a gentle way. It's like, hey, let's try this next time. You know, like, you didn't have to try this. You didn't have to do this on your own. Like, kudos for doing that. Legit. That's awesome. Check this out. The next time you do this, try this. Trust me. It'll work. You know, you don't have to, but if you really want to do a good job, and that seems like what you want to do, then, you know, try this next time. And that's adjusted my inner self-talk, and it's really helped, I would say, like, my self-value or self-worth to rise a whole lot. And also, I no longer seek external validation. Like, I don't really care what other people think about what I'm doing. And I don't ask other people, like, am I doing a good job? How am I doing? And I don't seek any validation. And let me tell you what, when you're not seeking any external validation and you can validate yourself internally, oh my gracious, like, that shifts the power structure. Because instead of seeking, you're just being. And you're not having to look for anything externally. I'm going to mention this one last thing. That inner voice is also necessary to be that kind, loving voice when you have emotions. When that inner voice can validate your emotions, bruh, it's awesome. Because I know, like, other people and me, like, as a kid in the 80s, as a guy, emotions weren't dealt with very well with parents that were emotionally shut off. So they were repressed in kids, you know, they weren't validated. It's like, you're bad for crying. You'll get more trouble for crying. I've heard this phrase from my parents and other parents, you know, if you keep crying, I'll give you something to cry about. That sucks. That's not cool. That's not the way to handle human emotions. But check this out. So it's like this really cool path. So once you start validating yourself and your emotions and letting yourself be okay with sitting with them, you start embodying the parent that you didn't have. And then that little boy, and for me that's true, that little boy grew up and no longer was wanting a mommy and daddy to love them. And just was like, oh, I am embodying that to myself, so I don't need it anymore. Cool. And then I can be better towards my kids as well. Because if I hadn't done that inward journey, then I would have just passed on generational stuff. So it's basically a big process, changing the inner dialogue, but there's freedom in it and there's growth in it when you do that. And I guess if I had to say like one place to start, try meditation. Just sitting there and doing nothing for 10 minutes. It's not easy. I tell you that right now. It's not easy. But basically, you're just not listening to the brain and you're not engaging, and you start controlling your brain and you're not being controlled by the processes that run. And I could talk about that a whole lot more, but I'm not going to. Anyway, I hope this video is helpful. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave comments below. I genuinely want to grow this YouTube channel. So if you've watched this, please like something, make a comment. But if you don't, not a big deal. My goal is to build this channel so I can build out the program that I've built to help people heal, and more specifically veterans. That's really what I want to do with this. So if you do that, that's going to actually help in the future other people heal. I'm done. Roadhouse Spiritual Horde.